I'm getting started with my model. This is a first time underarm wax for her. So I'm going to be walking her and you guys through the entire process. All right, so pre-wax cleanser. I always douse my cotton rounds pretty heavily with cleanser. So I'm gonna have you raise both your arms at the same time. We're going to prep both sides. So this is amazing length. Now, sometimes clients will ask, should I trim or do anything before I come in? The answer is always no. If we need to trim, we will do it. The reason being is that sometimes clients can trim a little bit too much, but trimming is not necessary in this case. You're gonna treat this the same as my rule of thinner the hair, thinner the strip, thicker the hair, thicker the strip. So we're just gonna thicken up the strip a little bit, okay? All right, second step is going to be a pre-wax oil. So this just helps to create a barrier. This is going to hydrate the hair, making sure that we avoid any breakage, and we're removing all the hair from the root. I'm just gonna do a quick pass on this. All right, and then we do wipe away any excess oil with a clean, dry paper towel. I also like using paper towels because it's a little bit exfoliating at the same time, but oftentimes people ask me, what's the point of the oil then? It works the same concept as conditioner in the shower. You rinse it out, but you still feel the effects of it. All right. When I have someone who's allowed such amazing growth, I do like to have a spoolie on hand to really separate out the different directions of hair growth. So this is the most common, is from the crease up usually grows upwards and the crease down grows downwards. This is not a situation where we would do the underarm in one full strip. We are going to separate this out. So next we're going to be laying our strip, and I'm going to start with this top portion here first, and then I'll walk you through everything as I'm ready to pull. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised though, it's really not. It's not terrible, I promise. So you wanna make sure you're applying with really great pressure. I like using the tip of my stick. So we're almost doing painter tool method, but on the underarm here, making sure we're really getting at the base here. Now, we still wanna remove this strip when it's still tacky, but the underarm is an area that is a little bit warmer, so it does take a little bit more time. I'm also not familiar with her hair and I've never waxed her before, so I'm gonna let this sit a little bit longer than normal, especially because she's never waxed her underarm before, so I'm really suspecting there's gonna be some decent sheathing in there. All right, so I'm gonna get a little grip, okay? 1, 2, 3, deep breath, good job. Immediate pressure. So she actually does not have much sheathing. There's a little bit right here. Her hair removed really great. Pinpoint bleeding, 100% normal. That's where the sheathing was. It actually detaches a little mini blood vessel, so it's just purging, completely normal. All right, we are moving on to the bottom portion here. So we are using painter tool. So I'm going to get the wax really focused towards the tip of my stick there. And now we are going in a downwards motion. Lots of pressure. We always want our strips to overlap with where the previous strip was or is going to be, so that you don't miss any little random sections, creating this service to take a lot longer than it needs to. Right, I'll let that set. I also always make sure to pull my strip past the hairline, and that's for being able to get a good grip without causing any unnecessary discomfort to the client. Always make sure you're positioning yourself and setting yourself up for the removal as well. So she's doing a good job at holding taut down there, so I don't need to do that. Get a little grip here. All right, 1, 2, 3, deep breath. So I pull really quickly, immediate pressure, and I hold that pressure. This one had a little bit more sheathing than the other one did. All right, so now we are moving on to a cleanup strip. So I'm not the biggest fan of powder. Now, anything that's touched after beginning the service needs to be placed on your SMA so that you are disinfecting that afterwards. All right, so I try to avoid powder, but she's a little bit clammy, completely normal on underarm and Brazilian once we move into these cleanup strips. So I'm gonna do a second cleanse. Be light-handed, the skin's kind of a little irritated after that first pass from that pinpoint bleeding. Totally normal. You do want to be explaining this to your client though. Don't ever just let your client discover that on their own and then think that something is wrong and that that's not supposed to be happening. All right, gonna give that a second to dry. Then we're gonna do a cleanup strip. So how do we decide which direction to do the cleanup strip? It's always against the hair growth. So I'm gonna look and see where has the most hair that needs to be cleaned up. It's really this upper portion here. So I'm gonna do my strip downwards, covering the entire area. And if need be, then we'll do one more up and then that will be it. Always make sure too, you're stirring your pot. Now warn your client that the cleanup strip may feel a little bit warmer just because the bulk of the hair is gone. So it's at a good temperature, it's not gonna burn you, but it just may feel slightly warmer. So thinner strips on these cleanups. Okay, and I do wanna remove when it's a little bit tackier than that first pass we did. All right, so get a little lift here. So I'm gonna remove a little bit slower. I promise I'm not trying to torture you. We're just kind of tweezing these guys out. All right, so we went this way. Now we're going to go upwards. There are a few little hairs. Again, it's gonna feel a little warm. This is the last pass, then we're moving on to the other side. Using good pressure. Remove when it's still tacky, so almost immediately. So you can see this sets fairly quickly. And we're removing in small sections here just to really tweeze out any of those left behind hairs. At this point, I'm not gonna do any more passes. They're not needed, but if you did have any hairs left behind at this point, you would go ahead and pull your tweezers. All right, I'm going to have you switch arms. Now, since her arm has been down, you always want to check and make sure there's no perspiration, which is super common for there to be. There's no need to re-cleanse. I'm just gonna grab a paper towel, make sure everything's nice and dry. Grab my spoolie. Gonna make sure I really get a clear visual on the separation of the hair growth here. All right. Okay, so going to grab wax towards the tip of our stick here. So this is called painter tool. So here we go, deposit. Now be careful with depositing. See when I'm twisting how the longer hair starts getting pulled by the stick? Stop twisting at that point because you're gonna be pulling on those hairs and it's really uncomfortable for the client. Painting motion, so index finger up top, so I'm able to apply a lot of pressure, really working this wax down to the base of the hairs. You cannot slack on the pressure or else you can be superficially removing these hairs and breaking them at the surface, which will create so much irritation for the client. Not now, but in about 3 to 4 days, they will have those hairs starting to regrow back. That's when you get super itchy. So really important you're using good pressure, especially when the hair is a little bit on the longer side. All right, I'm gonna get a little grip here, take a deep breath. All right, if that happens, immediate pressure. One more deep breath. So do not panic if you don't pull all the way through. So that was a mistake on my end where I did not pull through the strip, I pulled right to the end and it got stuck. But where it causes even more unnecessary discomfort for the client is if you freak out, you go to continue that pull without applying pressure, you continue that pull and then you can bruise, you oftentimes pull slower. So if that happens, immediate pressure, stop, one more deep breath and pull the rest of the way through. So this side has a little bit more sheathing, so you can see the sheathing right there. If you guys are enjoying this demo and you want to see more, I actually have a free 6-week course available to you guys. You'll simply visit lashandwaxoc.com, click on the training tab, and you can enroll today for free. I teach everything brows to toes, including Brazilians, multiple Brazilian demos, hard waxing 101, everything you need to be confident in the treatment room to start taking clients. So head over to lashandwaxoc.com and get signed up today. So now we are doing the bottom portion. My wax pot does need a little quick stir, so make sure you guys are keeping an eye on that. Really important that our wax is at the right consistency. Focusing again at the tip of the stick here. Going to be painting downwards. Lots of pressure. Create my lip there. Now, if there's ever any residue left behind, I like to do this on the back of my glove until it stops depositing wax. Then you can use this to just kind of pick up any residue that's left behind. right? So see how my glove really gets stuck there? That's when it's too tacky. We still need to allow it to set. But the biggest mistake I see is people allowing these strips to set way too long. It's not going to be as effective. So we do need to remove it when it's tacky, but not wet. So that's perfect. I'm going to get a little grip here. Deep breath. Good job. Ooh. Awesome job. The worst is over. All right, okay, so now we're going to look at this and see which direction we're gonna do our first cleanup strip. The bottom portion now actually has the majority of the hair left behind, so I'm gonna do a strip in an upwards motion, covering the entire underarm. So for the cleanup strip, since we are doing thinner strips, you really don't need to get as much wax on your stick. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and deposit. It is gonna feel a little warmer again. Lots of pressure. Notice how now I'm using the side edge. So I'm actually using small basic motion rather than the tip of my stick. So you have both options. Whatever allows you to apply with the correct amount of pressure. All right, it's gonna be ready almost immediately here. I'm gonna pull a little bit slower. There you go. One more cleanup strip. Now, if there's no hair up here, there's no reason to do a cleanup strip up there. We're just gonna focus on the areas that have any hair left behind. So I just really have to grab the smallest amount of wax, and there's just a few little guys down here. It's gonna feel warm, lots of pressure. A few things that can make people a little bit more sensitive: being within 5 days of starting your menstrual cycle, and caffeine. That's one thing that is often overlooked, is having caffeine before a waxing appointment. It's a stimulant, so it can really make things a little bit more heightened when it comes to heat and the discomfort level. All right, I'll have you lift both arms. I'm just gonna do a post serum. So for underarm, I'm definitely going to use a phantom oil, which is a post-wax oil and an ingrown hair serum in one. Really nice because you can just spray it. I'm just gonna do one little spray here and then rub that in. Good job. How was that?
It was okay.
Not too bad?
Not too bad.
Okay, that's good. Awesome. All right, that is it. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, let me know. If there's any demos you want to see in the future, let me know that as well. Don't forget to subscribe before you head out, and make sure to enroll in that free 6-week course too if you haven't already. All right, thanks for watching. See you next week.